I'm here in Braddock, Pennsylvania, where Kamala Harris lost the election. I used to think that Stephen Colbert was funny. But after Trump got elected the first time, and he just made fun of and made fun of and made fun of and made fun of him and his supporters, which it started to feel like, watching somebody kick the slow person in the playground and chuckling about it. It's not funny. But I mean, that is his job, right? I got an antenna so I could watch some of his shows a few years ago and not contribute to his ratings, because I know that's how we live these days. It's all about ratings.
Is last week.
Robert F. Kennedy cares more about human beings and health and the environment than anybody. I'm going to let him go wild on health. I'm going to let him go wild on the food. I'm going to let him go wild on medicines.
Oh, good. Because that's exactly how I like my medicine. Wild.
And I still learned quite a few things from Stephen Colbert that I wasn't hearing in the mainstream media or on X, Truth Social. And I haven't watched him for a few years, but I wanted to see what he was talking about. So I fired up the YouTube and watched his latest cry, and he said he talked about Robert Kennedy and how nobody cared that he was running, and that made me feel like a nobody. And it's already hard not to feel like a nobody whenever I have so few followers and I can't give my art away. I just feel like a complete nobody.
We still don't know the entire parade of clowns, degenerates, and in-laws that Trump will have running this country, but one guy we know will have a major role is RFK Jr. Now, if you're not familiar with him, it's probably because he ran for president and nobody cared. But we're familiar with him.
Poor Rabbit Slayer. And then Stephen went on to talk about Fruit Loops.
Today, talking about food deregulation.
Why do we have Fruit Loops in this country that have 18 or 19 ingredients, and you go to Canada and it's got 2 or 3?
Because democracy basically means government by the people, of the people, for the people. But the people are retarded.
Now, I'm not the smartest guy in the room. There were no worms lining up to eat portions of my brain. But I went to the Kellogg's Canada website, and it turns out the Canadian Fruit Loops actually have 26 ingredients. And that doesn't even count the gravy, which Canadians use to make fruitine. Now,
But there is a big difference between Canadian Fruit Loops and United States Fruit Loops. The difference comes, number one, well, I'll talk about number 2 first, which is what Kennedy was talking about, that Canadian Fruit Loops are colored. They have their color from fruit juices, which really, that makes me kind of want to have some Fruit Loops somehow. I'm like, the flavoring's not from it, but there's actual fruit in Canadian Fruit Loops. There's no fruit in American Fruit Loops. The coloring from the American Fruit Loops are colors with numbers after them. And I listened to Kennedy talk about some yellow color. And I eat a lot of M&Ms. I've got an M&M problem. And if the M&Ms were colored with fruit juices, I don't think they'd be as appealing. As strange as that is. I mean, we were taught in culinary school that you first eat with your eyes and then with your mouth. But yeah, like, I don't think they'd taste the same without that super, super bright yellow, which comes from some industrial slime, I believe, if I'm recalling correctly. So yes, Kennedy's going to get in there. He's going to go wild on health and make our Fruit Loops healthy again. But in researching, in my personal research, because I didn't trust Stephen Colbert's people, nor did I trust Kennedy's claim that Canadian Fruit Loops only have 4 ingredients, there is another major difference. The number one ingredient, which is like what it's mostly made out of in the U.S. Fruit Loops, is a corn flour. The number one ingredient, get ready, in the Canadian Fruit Loops is sugar. So the Canadians have to make up with their Fruit Loops looking a little dull with a little extra sweetness, it seems. That I found hilarious, because although I'm with Kennedy and believing that, you know, America's extremely unhealthy, some of his reasoning is wrong. You know, I mean, am I going to eat the yellow slime again? Yeah, probably. You know, I mean, M&Ms are really fucking tasty. But the problem isn't, you know, M&Ms. It's the amount of M&Ms. And it's not necessarily that our food is, you eat it and you die. Blah, you're just dead. It's, you know, it's that people are using food as therapy. So the problem is up here, not down here. If you're going to continue eating Fruit Loops like a maniac to deal with all the stress in life, it doesn't matter if there's yellow number 40 or turmeric extract. You're going to eat way too much, and you're going to be overweight and get diabetes from all the sugar. So I'm really excited about seeing this. I don't know. It seems sadistic. It feels like things are just going to fall apart. Ooh, that's really neat. That's just the sun. This is some good visuals in this silly YouTube. But so I've tried to interview people. I've asked over, you know, a dozen interesting people in central Pennsylvania, some family, some friends, and nobody seems to be really like taking the bite. Okay, well, it's time to get on the scooter and scoot my butt back to central PA. Take care, rabbits.